Matt, we're getting old in the world.
We are.
Old gamers now. I had my birthday over the weekend. How old do you think I am?
I think you're about, if I had to guess, 52 at this point.
Oof, man.
Yeah. You're showing some wrinkles. That's probably the biggest indicator there.
I am. Well, we're recording this podcast quite early this morning, and I looked in the mirror, and I have the bags, you know.
Oh, I have huge saggy bags. Yeah, no, yeah. Me too. Yeah. Take off those glasses, and you notice them. Whew.
Mm-hmm. Oof. Yeah. Well, I'm 39 now.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. One more year until the big 4-0, and then I just have to reflect on my entire existence and say, what the heck are you doing with your life?
Yeah, that's midlife crisis right there. Really, literally, like you've hit it.
I'm prepping, dude. I'm like, I can already feel it. It starts at your 39th birthday because you're like, I got one more year until I have to deal with the reality that my telomeres are getting shorter. My reaction times, man, like my genetic code is breaking down every day.
Well, I must say you've been aging like fine wine, so.
Thank you. Thank you. I think 39 is the new 60.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. Knowing this generation. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I got to turn off my my AC system. We're recording it off hours because my house is under construction. It is winter time and it sprung a few leaks. And so during the day they are ripping out drywall and building new thing. I don't know,
making lots of noise.
Yeah. It's fun when you buy a house and you get to fix everything that's wrong with it, and then you realize, oh, when they first built the house, they just built it horribly. And
I mean, I wouldn't know because I'm a millennial. Granted, are you a millennial too, technically? Or you?
What's the cut? I think I am,
I don't know.
But what's the cutoff? I believe I am by like a year or something like that.
Yeah, you're like right on the cutoff if you are.
Yeah. Which sucks because I always used to make fun of millennials, and then somebody's like,
like, wait a second, am I actually a millennial?
Yeah, I eat my avocado
toast,
man.
You might be Gen X, but I don't know.
Well, let's look it up. Hang on. Millennial cutoff. Okay, if you are millennials or people born between 1981 and 1996.
Okay,
I'm definitely a millennial.
100% a millennial. Then yeah.
All right. I mean, millennials kind of old now if you think about it.
Yeah, and we're still getting blamed for everything too, which is great. I can't wait until Gen Z starts getting some of that vitriol.
Well, we blamed the boomers for everything.
Well, because we validly should, for a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the boomers just happen to be in a great period of economic prosperity, you know. And everything, if they bought a house, it's like worth 100 times what it is.
My favorite critique of our generation is that we're the participation, like award trophy generation where we all got trophies and stuff. But it's like, you gave them to us. You're the one who's raised us. What are you complaining about? Like,
yeah,
as you can tell, I get very passionate about this nonsense because it's utter garbage.
Yeah, you don't get no participation trophies, man. We're gamers, okay? We're about trash talking, teabagging, winning tournaments.
Well, it's just so ironic to complain about a generation who is considered, the ones that get participation. They always deserve a trophy. They always deserve a reward. But you're the one who instilled that in them at a young age because you raised that generation. You can't. Mm-hmm. So are you complaining that you raised us poorly? Then is that what you're saying?
Yeah. No, it is. It's a bit silly. I guess the people doing the complaining are usually the ones who don't have kids, and then they're like, kids these days,
Yeah, kids these days. Yeah.
Yeah. I like. Have you seen the DINKS trend now? DINKS is
the DINKS.
Yeah. So people have been like posting these TikToks or videos talking about the DINK lifestyle, which is double income, no kids. So basically people who are together.
Oh, that's hot.
Yeah. And they're just like, look at all this stuff I can do as being a dink. I'm going out whenever I want. I'm doing all this, so it's like they're doing fine in life. And just like the responses to those are so fun. And people are like, thank you for being a genetic dead end.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's weird how like they are being very kind of not aggressive about it, but they are confrontational. They're being a little confrontational. Like, look
It's
at
annoying.
you.
It's
you
annoying.
you chose the wrong path in life. This is what you should have chosen. But I do think each side, I mean, like in all things in life, take it way too far. It's just like just respect other people's decisions. There's pros and cons to both ways of living.
This is the internet, Matt. There is no place for respect, common
there
understanding.
There isn't a gray area where we can all, be like, yeah, that's cool. Congratulations on your life.
Yeah. Jason's in chat saying he's happy being a genetic dead end over there. As are we. Oh.
Wait.
That was, whoa. It was too far. It's too far. Congrats on your raise, by the way, Jason. Loyal fan, doing well over there, who was not laid off in the giant tech exodus that has been happening. My God.
It just keeps happening. You look over at a different company, it's like, oh, this one's now lost 2,000 employees.
There's a funny article that was posted like a week ago or something that said like, we're only in January and already the tech sector has laid up, or it said tech center has laid 25,000 employees or whatever, and all the comments were just like, about time those guys got laid, all those nerds over there working super hard.
Nerds, yeah, they got laid, just still not laid off. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, so Activision layoffs, man.
Yeah,
lots
and I'm assuming
of them.
this is because of Microsoft. I'm guessing, right? Because Microsoft's acquisition has gone through. I haven't been paying as much attention to it anymore.
Yeah. The acquisition has gone through. There is some sort of like the government, or I think very later was like, hey, we need to keep looking at this. And so they might reinvestigate the acquisition, because the acquisition happened when like somebody was out of office or something. It was still a legal acquisition, but like basically the government screwed up and just didn't do their due diligence to like review or stop a thing.
Of course they did.
I think it's going to go through regardless. But yeah, it's possible the government might.
They step in, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, Microsoft, Activision, whatever, the whole shebang did some layoffs, and it was a lot of people. Was it like 19,000 or something?
I didn't know it was 19,000. I thought it was 1,900.
1,900. I think
19,000 would have been nuts.
Okay, there was a lot though.
Well, they have Microsoft, just in total with all of their companies, has over 200,000 employees. So they could technically lay off that many, but like just in the gaming sector would have been nuts. Still, essentially 2,000 is a gigantic amount.
1,900. Yeah, no, it's really crazy. And like I've been working with my partner who we're working on making the video game together. Yeah. He used to work at Unity, and he was part of the Unity layoff process. And like he was in one of the rounds, like round 3 or something. They're still doing rounds.
They have rounds of layoffs? Good Lord.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it happened so long ago at this point, and I'm still watching the news, and it's like Unity lays off another
more layoffs
amount of employees, and you're just like, holy smokes. Like, I am so glad I didn't get a big tech job, because that's very much where my career was heading after college. Yeah. Even had a job at EA for a little while, and it's just like, these are people with 15, 20 plus years of programming, being senior programmers, getting canned, And
there was a father I knew growing up, and he got laid off from like Dell, and he became a handyman because he's an older guy, and they weren't going to hire an older guy, and so he had to literally change his entire career path because of it. He's doing very well now, but yeah, so like that happens.
Hey,
it's been happening.
There's good money in that kind of work nowadays. Actually, it's
he does very well for himself. Like he landed on his feet. He's totally fine. But yeah,
it's wild, isn't it? Just when you think you got some job security,
yep,
you're thinking about becoming a game developer. Maybe look at the indie sector or something. It's the Wild West out there right now.
Yeah. It's just so frustrating too because, the market apparently is the best it's ever been. But then you look around, you're like, wait, why is everyone laying off, at least in the tech industry?
Yeah. Yeah. So scary stuff. Did you see the leaked footage of Call of Duty's space game?
Oh, I did. Yeah, it looked really cool.
I know, right? I think a lot of people were saying, I wish COD made a game all about that when, what was it, Infinity War? Which was the one that had the space sequence? Yeah, Infinity War.
I can't remember if it was like Infinite War, because now there's Halo Infinite, so I'd always jostle it around. But I know what you're talking about.
Infinity War, the Avengers.
Yeah, the Avengers. Call of Duty.
I mean,
all your favorite COD
Fortnite
characters.
did the crossover. At this point, I would expect COD to do something like it. But people were saying they wish that there was a whole COD game that was just like the EVA space stuff. And apparently they were working on one, but Neversoft was making one in 2010, and they leaked the footage for it, and it actually looks legit, but I didn't really
see any gameplay. It was more like cinematics, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looked like a very long COD QuickTime event. Actually, there was a lot more stuff leaked. I haven't watched through all of it.
Okay.
Like a ton of footage was leaked, and I was like, can I make a video on this? Pretty sure I'm going to get striked immediately.
Wouldn't do that.
Which kind of sucks because you're like, hey man, this is 10 plus year old footage.
Almost kind of journalism to some extent,
Yeah.
You'd think you'd be somewhat protected, but they also have their own protection, so hard to say.
It's all over Twitter and Reddit, but if it goes on YouTube, now you've broken the law,
You've done the worst crime ever.
But it's interesting because it looks like COD was doing the thing that looked more artistically creative, more of a risk, but then they canceled it, which is unfortunate. Yeah.
I also heard it was a project that was meant to get the devs like working on a Call of Duty game and kind of get them used to making COD games and stuff. So the fact that it was canceled wasn't the worst because it was more of a practice than anything else. But I doubt it was, that was their main goal, was just practice, because there's no way they're going to spend that kind of resources and time.
2 years and a dev team practicing. You're like, no. Yeah. Also, you just hire people that know how to make a video game.
Right.
We're going to train up this kindergarten class to make video games.
Can you imagine? Who knows? Maybe that would be the next cool. You see stories like that recent one for the racing game, not Forza, but the other one. And they become race car drivers. It could be something like that. You take high school kids and then the Gran Turismo. That you take high school kids and you teach them how to make a Call of Duty game, and it actually doesn't suck. Ironically or unironically, that actually legitimately could make for a really great game because you've got fresh ideas for like kids that are, they always have good ideas. Well, some of them are terrible, but that could be a good way of actually getting new ideas.
It's one of the ironies of the big game development world. So outside of the indie world, in the, Activision, EA, Ubisoft world, by the time you get to the level where you are the guy that's like picking and choosing what game project you're going to make.
Yeah.
You're so far past your like young, enthusiastic years of game development that you're like, well, you're kind of behind the times with your ideas. You're playing it safe. You're just not at the prime years of making video games, essentially. So that's why all these big AAA studios have relatively safe, relatively non-innovative games coming out. And it's just kind of ironic.
They're making games, and this is true for almost the entire entertainment industry. They make games and movies that they think people will want. They're not making something that they want to make.
Yes.
Right? And then the passion starts to go away. And so you can tell that passion isn't there. And then I think that makes for a worse project.
Yeah. Well, it's the very nature of big industry is you've got all these employees, you've got all these teams, you've got to make a game. So they have to make a game because it's their business to make a game. Otherwise, they have to shut down the company. So they're very much just have to keep trying to make things that are fun and inspiring, where an indie dev is usually like, hey, I've got this crazy idea for a game. Does somebody want to make it with me? And so you start from a place of usually true inspiration and passion.
Imagine if indie games had more money than they do now, how much more interesting the game market would be in the long run.
We're sort of seeing that effect in the sense that the engines are becoming so much more powerful and so much more capable, and the asset stores are so much more fleshed out with content that the quality of those indie projects is getting so much better.
I mean, just look at Palworld.
Yeah, for sure.
Palworld doesn't have like a giant. I don't think they've got a ton of money behind them. And from the stories, the developers weren't really that, I wouldn't say good, but they apparently didn't have a lot of experience.
I read through that a bit more, and it's kind of terrifying. I was talking with Rich, my dev partner, who's actually like a good programmer and knows all this stuff, and he's like, I don't know if I totally buy all that, because the way they were talking about building the game on flash drives instead of having a source control, it sounds insane.
That does sound insane.
Like absolutely insane. If you're going to get that far in any project, you would absolutely know how to use GitHub or one of the other source control softwares, just to like, it just seems totally wild to be like,
just bonkers.
Here's the latest build of the game on like a floppy disk, You're like, what are you talking about, guys? Like, there's no way you made this game like that. But the developer saying that he was not a trendsetter, he was a trend follower, and like all he wanted to do was make a game that would be popular. He wasn't like inspired by all this stuff. And I'm
and that's great counterpoint to what I just said, is that maybe, sometimes it works where you're just you're following the trends, you follow something where you think people will like, and it turns out, you're right, they liked it.
Yeah. So Nintendo's looking into Palworld. I don't know if
I think that was more of just them telling people to shut up. We know. Stop messaging us.
Well, they did. Did you see that they did a DMCA takedown over the Pokemon mod for Palworld?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was just because, I think that guy was just trying to get publicity and really walking the line of like, what are you doing? I don't even think it was them. I thought it was, the story that I heard was that it was the website that hosts a lot of the like Nexus that hosts the mods was like, stop, because we're gonna get in trouble.
No,
right?
I heard that Nintendo issued a
Was
DMCA.
it Nintendo itself? Okay, all right.
But yeah, it's kind of funny because he makes a Pokemon mod for the Pokemon ripoff game, at which point it looks just like Pokemon.
Just like it. Which is cool.
Yeah.
Like,
it was a good mod.
That's the Pokemon game that I would love to have.
Yeah. Well, it's very funny also just seeing Pikachu with a pickaxe, like doing manual labor, like
or a gun.
Yeah. He's in your quarry, and you're whipping him. Mine more rock.
Well, I don't know if you ever bring out a whip, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a PAL.
I don't know what mod you were playing.
We call it a PAL rope, okay, Matt? There's no cruelty in this game.
Of course, yes.
It's a friend rope.
It's a friend rope.
It's a tickle rope, we call it.
It just shows how much you care.
When you hit them with it, they laugh because it's a tickle rope. And they go, ha, 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 ha. Okay, we'll work more. Stop tickling us.
This is getting weird.
Yeah, well, Palworld's pretty freaking weird. Okay,
it is a pretty weird game, yeah.
And it sold last I checked, over 8 million copies.
Sounds about right. Yeah,
such insanity.
Bonkers. They're making so much money, and cool.
Yeah. Did you hear that? Speaking of Nintendo, there was a Switch 2 leak, potentially Switch 2 coming out this year, and it's going to be guess how powerful, Matt?
PlayStation 4.
Yeah. Yep.
I already kind of looked into it a little bit. I cheated.
I know. It's just so you always want Nintendo to come out with something that's like, it's going to be powerful.
There's no way though. Like, it's because it's like it's like, I think they do it intentionally. They're like, we want our games to look like ass.
Yeah.
So
and they're
deal
gonna
with it.
Sell better than anybody else's games because we're going to make them so damn good because we know what we're doing over.
They do.
Because we make games with passion. They do. I mean, like, they have franchises that people love so dearly that, like, when they bring a new designer in, they're just so great when they make a new game.
Pokemon is the biggest game franchise, or actually the biggest franchise, not just game, in the world. So
Pokemon?
Yeah, Pokemon. Yeah.
Dang, dude.
Like the most well-recognized, largest franchise. It's nuts.
It's pretty crazy. It's the guy invented it so long ago, and that's just that's just a check you cash, man. You just keep cashing.
His family is set for life, literally. Well, forever.
Dude,
as long as the world doesn't blow up.
If you had a Pokemon, like a Pokemon mansion, and you'd had like 2 giant Pikachu statues like lining the driveway, gold-plated Pikachu statues.
Yeah, I mean, with that kind of money, you absolutely could afford it too.
God, that's what I would do, man. I'd have some crazy-ass Pokemon mansion.
Just make really gaudy, just statues of every Pokemon as it lines. You keep having to push your mansion backwards every time a new generation comes out because you need more statues, so your driveway needs to get longer and longer.
Yeah. I like it, dude. A Pokemon shaped swimming pool, you know?
Yes.
But just like fine craftsmanship, right? Like,
of course, yeah.
Like Michelangelo David-esque Pikachu statues in the foyer. That would be awesome. I hope that exists.
So going back to the Switch, I mean, I will probably pick it up because it's my job to play video games, but I'm also not super enthusiastic because I'm assuming it's just going to be more of the same, which is fine. But I haven't really used my Switch all that much. Like I use it when like family and friends are over or something every, once in a blue moon.
Well, do you think Nintendo's going to try and do something crazy? Because that's sort of their MO with a console, right? Yeah. It's like you had the GameCube, which was sort of weird. And then the N64, very different for its time compared to what else was on the market. And then the Wii, right? That thing was super weird. The little
very
motion
strange
controllers and stuff. And then Switch, obviously, completely throwing a 180 and being like, "Whoa, we're going handheld and not handheld. Like, enjoy, guys." So you think Switch 2 is just going to be same thing? You think the innovative years are over behind them? Maybe.
I don't know if they're behind them, but I feel like the handheld is almost a little endgamey for them, where I don't really know how much more they could push handheld unless they start getting into like AR, like, augmented reality and VR and stuff like that. Like I could see them going into that direction because I mean, Xbox was doing that with the 360, right? They had like the Xbox Connect and that could have been really cool, but no one wanted it back then. Like it was
just
like,
DDR fans.
It was hated.
Basically. That was the market, is people who wanted to do those little dance games, and that was about it.
Yep, pretty much. So
it's an interesting idea.
I could see them innovating and going, especially into augmented reality. I could definitely see that, but hard to say. I mean, they've got some really clever people there.
Yeah, it's going to get interesting because Valve, I can't remember if they officially announced it or if it's been leaked or rumored that the next Steam Deck is in the works. And I personally like the Steam Deck. I think the version 1 is a little too loud and noisy with the fan and stuff. So it's not as cool. It's not quite as convenient as the Switch is to play. The Switch is like has better engineering in it. Although I will say the ergonomics of the Switch are horrible. Like you play that thing for any extended period of time.
I never use the handheld. I just use a controller. I bought their elite controller, and it's worked really well.
Yeah. So like for the Switch, anyone who uses the handheld version frequently, most of them buy like controller add-on things that make it more ergonomic. Otherwise your hands cramp so bad.
Because it's tiny.
Yeah, and it's just they went for aesthetics over ergonomics, and so it's like this just weird grip, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'm playing Zelda, and then your hands are like dead on you, and you're like, whoa, what's happening?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how the Steam Deck disrupts the Switch market, or if it will at all. Maybe those markets don't overlap that much, but
they really do have their own ecosystem.
Yeah, I am excited about the Steam Deck. I think Valve is actually on to like a really good product there, and like the whole Linux-based gaming system is going to be, it's cool. Like it's making a demand for it now, and lots of developers are figuring out how to get games to run well on Linux, Proton, whatever the branch of Linux is that they use over there. It's just they're making waves. I'm excited about it. I like playing certain games on the Steam Deck more than I do on like a PC because it's just fun to have it handheld and
convenient.
Some titles work really well there. So it's cool. They just got to work on some of the sound, the heat generation, all that kind of stuff.
Which is tough.
Yeah, it is hard because you're like, I want more power and less noise
in a smaller package. Please and thank you.
Yeah,
it's like we're kind of limited by we're limited by thermodynamics here. So going back to innovation though, imagine a Pokemon game, Pokemon glasses, where you walk around like Pokemon Go, and instead of just looking at your screen and like, hey, there's a it like comes out of the tree in front of you, an augmented like, bro. People would lose their mind over that. Are you kidding me? If it actually worked properly, that would literally change the world.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it would be like it would be as big, if not bigger, than Pokemon Go when it first came out.
Absolutely,
right?
100%.
Yeah, that would be nice.
If it was relatively cheap and inexpensive,
that would. I mean, I have no problem imagining all these fantastic AR games. Where you're just like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if you could do... I mean, I used to go airsofting all the time, right? And it's like, okay, imagine that, but with augmented reality where it's putting like muzzle flashes over your weapons and and putting realistic explosions over grenades, you could do all this crazy stuff with it where you could have your little simulated war game that looks very authentic.
Right.
Or accurately tracks incoming shots so people can't cheat or say they didn't get hit or something like that. So you could have people that are like, oh yeah, it's tracking where your shot is and you're out of the game. You got hit twice or 3 times. And so now your life points are gone. Like there's so much you could do with that. It's pretty exciting, but I still think we're a little ways off. Apple launched...
we're a ways off, yeah.
Apple launched their AR VR headset for, what is it, $3,500, something crazy?
Super expensive, yeah.
I still don't know anyone who owns one. Do you know anyone? Yeah.
But I don't also hang out with people, so.
Well, but we are right in the middle of gaming tech, right? If we don't know anyone that has an AR VR headset, then like, did anyone buy the damn thing? Like,
yeah.
It just seems like such a weird product.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's going to take a while. Though I did think of a funny situation. Someone falls asleep with their glasses on. They wake up and there's this giant Pokemon in their room. They think like panic for a split second because they don't realize it's a Pokemon. They think
Dude, you know what's going to be weird is because this is going to be like a Black Mirror episode. I don't know if you've watched a lot of Black Mirror, but...
No, I've told you it freaked me out too much. I watched the episode where everyone liked their post, and if you didn't like their post, it Yeah, that one's I enjoyed that one a lot, but the reality of it, you're like, holy shit, this is the future. No, so AR, so think about this, dude, is how on Snapchat, or I guess basically any chat software or TikTok, whatever, they got face filters, right? You put on your cutesy makeup filter. You can become a monster. You can make your eyes bigger. You can do whatever, right? That in real time, in real life, you could put face filters on other people. No, absolutely. I think people will start going all in on it and be like, it transmits it to people. So they decide what their avatar looks like, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, you're like,
and then they just become an anime character.
Today, my wife is Nicki Minaj. I'm going to play that fantasy for a week.
Oh, that's getting creepy when you start becoming other people. Ooh,
I mean, dude, that is happening for sure. Can you imagine?
No, yeah, it's gross and weird and cool at the same time for some things, but
yeah, well, it could become that weird pseudo reality of everybody having avatars almost, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, I'm the anime. I just look like anime Matimi0, right? When you walk around, and that's how you look in the AR world or something. And what if people got comfortable with that, where people preferred that you had your AR glasses on? They're like, don't look at me without your AR glasses on. I don't have makeup on, or I'm ugly.
Can you imagine?
I can absolutely imagine it, dude. Yeah, right.
That'd be wild. Absolutely, though. But then you could just take off the glasses and you could just see everyone what they normally look
what
like.
if people are like, what if you
They
have
start shaming
like
you?
nightclubs where it's like no, like AR glasses only. Like if you take off your glasses, you got to get out. You know, people don't.
I mean, you could just do this.
I guess. Well, who knows what they'll become in the future? Maybe they'll become like
maybe everyone just
Jordy's
got
eye
giant
visor. You know, you can't see around it. Who knows, man?
The future is exciting and scary.
Well, there definitely were some Black Mirror episodes, and it wasn't Black Mirror, but it was like a show that was kind of like Black Mirror, that was like more of a serial type thing where it just went from episode to episode of following the same people. But the daughter in that show, and it takes place slightly in the future, has this face hologram emitter. And so she's always some sort of like cutesy anime person talking in a weird way. And the parents are like getting annoyed because she has it on during mealtime.
Why do they always talk like that, by the way? Why?
I don't know.
Why do they do that?
You're closer to it than me, man.
I'm not, though. I hate
your body pillows.
I hate it. Just talk like a normal. What do you mean? You said you would stop bringing up the body pillows, LevelCap.
You and your anime body pillows, okay? Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know why they talk like that. Because you're like, that's not actually, if they relax their vocal cords, that's not how you speak.
That's not how they sound. Continue, though. I didn't mean to interrupt. I did, though.
Yeah. So the daughter won't take off the holographic projection over her face and the voice augmenter. And so the parents are getting annoyed because she keeps doing it at like dinner time. And then it just becomes an issue where she doesn't ever want to take it off. And it's like her identity. And you're like, yeah, if that technology existed, I could totally see young people like,
yes. I mean, it's already happening right now with face filters, with the image that they have of themselves online is different from what they see in reality. Because like if you can just click a button and all of a sudden all your blemishes go away, if your cheekbones slightly shift, and all of a sudden you become prettier. Then
you don't even want to show people can you imagine the catfishing in this day and age? I am so glad I'm not dating anymore. My God.
Yeah, me too. Oh boy.
Swipe on it. Well, your profile, Matt. I've seen your profile with the head of luscious locks. You look like Fabio.
All right. Come
Matt
on,
looks
you didn't
like
have to do me like that.
on God, what are the dating apps? I don't even know, man. Tinder.
I actually haven't used a single dating app before, so I don't know.
Matt's Tinder profile is it's just you, but with Fabio hair, and you're in the sunlight. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, luscious locks.
Yeah, and then people show up, and you're like, "Oh, I just got it. I got a trim yesterday." That's why.
Yeah. Well, your hairline's receded though. Trimmed it a lot. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Because people used to catfish back in my day and age, and that took some effort, right? You had to like know somebody with Photoshop, or like do some crazy crap with your camera or something. But nowadays, you're just like, "Oh yeah, just hit the button that makes me look crazy hot."
Yep.
Like, yeah, it's gonna be
and it does too. It's wild how it like completely changes people's face, but still sort of looks like them at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about Apple's headset and just their cool company and stuff, the EU finally passed a law that basically will prevent Apple from trying to stop people from installing software via third party things. So it's called side loading, basically, where you can load apps via a different process than the App Store.
Yeah.
So they passed a law basically making it so that the App Store has less of a stranglehold over people who want to make software for iOS, which seems like a good idea. It's kind of how computers are set up, but for whatever reason, a phone is not a computer. So they have complete control over these app stores for them.
Well, they of course want to have complete control because they want their 30% enclosed garden. Yeah, exactly.
Enclosed garden and 30%. Yeah, and having just kind of weird arbitrary rules and control over every app on the store and what they can do. They're very aggressive prices, but so they didn't pass the law in the States because I don't know. They they paid off the right senators or something.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, not even a joke, really, at this point. Almost certainly. But I think it is a preview of what's to come in the States. Is maybe we'll stop with some of this exclusivity over here, and we'll have to see what happens, because obviously there's a huge amount of the Apple Store on an iPhone is still going to carry a huge amount of weight. If your product does well there, then it's going to be like Steam on a PC, right? Is like, if you don't launch your game on Steam, well, then it just doesn't really launch on the PC, right? You can launch. You have the option.
We've gotten really comfortable with like oligarchs and monopolies for a lot of stuff, especially for gaming. I don't know why gamers are so keen for just Steam and only Steam.
We're really stupid.
I get it because it's convenient.
Yeah,
but we do realize it's bad.
We are collectively
in the long run, right?
stupid, because do you remember when Epic Game Store launched and people were like, no, never.
No!
And you're like, okay, I get it. It's Epic. They're a big corporation. We don't want another big corporation having a game launcher. But at the same time, do you not want, they were doing 15% or 10% cuts for indie devs. And indie devs were like, this is great, because Steam is a 30% cut. But gamers were like, no, we don't want another client. This is the worst thing ever. And it's like, competition, guys. Come on, man. It's just so silly. Yeah. But like you're saying, we like our oligarchs, our controllers, we like our Gabens to tell us what is great. I mean, when Gaben is gone, and he will be gone someday, who takes over, guys? Like, come on. The golden era of Steam could become the nightmare era of Steam. And honestly, for indie devs or any dev publishing there, 30% is a huge amount of your revenue. I think about it. If an indie dev if they got 3 employees and their game makes, I don't know, 300 grand total, and now you're giving up 30% of that. I mean, like, those devs are not getting paid that well. And so it's just like a lot of those guys are scraping by, and 30% off the top to scrape by is kind of crazy. I wish they would employ something that was a little more lenient, that was kind of like how Epic does with the Unreal Engine, right? Is any developer can use their engine, and you don't owe them anything until you've sold over $1 million worth of your product, right? And then even then it's 5%. It's not 30% or something crazy. So
a really good example of this in real time is Audible. Amazon owns Audible, and there's like no competition. There's almost no competition. It's basically a monopoly, and they rule with an iron fist to the point where if you try and launch on another platform, you get like, it's an unbelievably small percentage of the actual revenue on Audible itself. They're like, oh, you actually want to post this somewhere else? Well, that's funny. We get I think they get most of the money from the book sales.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. I'd have to look into it further, but it's very bad. And so there's some really big authors like Brandon Sanderson, for example. He's well off enough where he can actually fight back a little bit and be like, no, I'm going to be on another platform, because it's just the principle of the thing. Because if you give one company too much power, which could happen to Steam, if like there was just, okay, we give up, Steam's the only place now, they could be like, oh, well, now we get 40%. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? There's nowhere to go. We're the only option. 40%.
For sure. There's nothing stopping Steam from changing that policy. And that's kind of like what that whole Unity freak out was too, right? Is like, Unity is the most widely used game engine in the world. And they just were like, hey, we're going to start charging for install fee. Oh yeah. What other companies doing an install fee charge? I think it might have been, was it Apple? Somebody started saying they were going to, I think it was Apple, saying that they were going to start charging install fees on apps or something like that. Something crazy, right? So they can retroactively go and screw your whole financial model for your game.
You'd have to delist it at that point.
Yeah, it's totally wild to think about, because imagine as a developer, you plan your whole financial model around, you're like, this is how much we think we can make. This is how much we're going to spend on devs and resources to make the game because of our financial plan. And then just randomly later, the company that you're distributing on is just like, we're going to change it to 40%. Maybe 50%. You're like, oh my God, our entire financial model is screwed. We're in the red. We're bankrupt.
It's over.
Yeah, it's a bit too much control. It's a bit freaky. And I don't know what the solution is, because gamers, we don't teach economics at a young age in the US here, because it's,
we don't even teach our young ones how to do taxes. So
yeah. Well, also, let's be honest, the tax system. Do you know how screwed up the tax system is in the States? Like, people don't need to file taxes. The government has all of that information.
Right. It's stupid. But you have the like H&R Block and tax services who have lobbied to be like, no, we need this because it makes jobs. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
So you're forcing everyone to pay money so that, jobs are cool and everything, but it's a little lame.
Yeah. Intuit, the owners of TurboTax literally pay, they lobby senators like every single year to continue making the taxation system extremely complex and difficult to do so that people will buy their software. And you're just like, son of a bitch. Yeah.
It's gross.
It's really gross. Yeah, a lot of countries are just like, it's all calculated for you. You just pay the thing, And
a lot of people don't even realize how the tax brackets even work. Most people.
Well, that's why you hire an accountant, because you need somebody who's dedicated to it.
It's the idea that they don't want to get a raise because they are in another tax bracket, and that means that they'll increase their taxes. Like, no, it's not how that works at all. Like, yes, you pay more taxes on the little bit that went into the next tier, but everything else is at the previous bracket or whatever. And some people legitimately don't know that. And it's heartbreaking.
I thought there were some situations where if your income increases slightly, you will actually end up making less because of the higher tax bracket.
It is very complicated. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I know the entire tax code or anything like that. But my understanding is that no, it's a different bracket, and it's only the bracket. Once you get into that bracket, everything after that is taxed at that higher rate. Everything else is at the lower end.
Did you see that? It was like a viral TikTok or something of like the chick trying to talk about, she's like having a taxation epiphany where she's like, okay, so if I get paid $1, and then that dollar gets taxed, but then I take that dollar and I buy something and I'm paying sales tax, and then that dollar goes to the person and that company has to pay tax on the income that they made, and then that dollar they pay to the employee. And then it was just really funny watching her brain like deal with it. And you're like,
it's called taxes.
Yeah, not only is it called taxes, but like the insanity of taxes, how the government just keeps recycling the taxation on every time that money moves. You're like, I wonder why they're trying to stop like independent cryptocurrencies and stuff from taking root or becoming legitimized in the States.
Well, cryptocurrency is also super shady in a lot of respects, but I hear you.
Yeah. Well, a lot of countries would fight against an independent currency that is not government controlled, because then they lose their power.
I hate taxes just like everyone else, but I also understand that to some extent they do serve some purpose.
The government needs some money.
There is some purpose.
The government needs some money to function, but not as much as they currently have. And they're, oh my God. You just see how they misspend it, and you're like, great, glad my money's going there.
Yeah. But we live in a society.
Yeah. So I've been, for my birthday, I went to Ground Control in Portland, which is an arcade. And there's two purposes. One, going to arcades is fun. They have lots of classic pinball machines there. And I like pinball, like from, early 90s, late 80s era pinball machines. They're cool. It's fun. But I'm researching them because I want to get one for me eventually.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna get a pinball machine, Matt.
I feel like you're gonna use that only a couple of times, and it's gonna just collect dust. No offense, but it's just gonna collect dust.
That is a fair concern, and I'm actually looking at a V-pin machine, virtual pinball.
Oh,
so
those are called video games.
Yes, It's going to run on my computer. And no, so V-Pins are really crazy, man. So they have like a 4K 120 144 hertz screen laid down.
It's the entire end of it, like a normal pinball, but it's just a screen instead.
But then under or behind the screen, they put in basically the motors, the solenoids that will like knock around the table. And so when you press the button to hit the flipper, you'll feel it like vibrate the table.
Feel the flipper, yeah. That's cool.
And they have like a physical plunger that you pull back, and you'll see it represented on the screen. And they're expensive. They're like almost.
I was going to say
they're as much as an actual pinball machine, but I
would have assumed it would have been more, but
like 1,000 different tables of pinball on it. Yeah. So if you're like, well, I like Jurassic Park pinball, and you buy a Jurassic Park pinball machine, that's the only game you ever get, right? Which is fine for a lot of people, but. Yeah, also you get to play any pinball game that you want. So I don't know. I'm looking at it and I'm kind of debating between the two. The problem with classic pinball is like, so a lot of the machines are from like 1993. Like they're old. They're collector's items. Yeah. So they do appreciate in value, which is kind of cool. You can almost look at them as like an investment.
I know you're almost at 40, but you're not supposed to actually hit a midlife crisis. Come on, man.
This is right in the vein of what I do. Okay, I've got Star Wars minifigures that are.
You're over here like, all right, I gotta stop making some big purchases of pinballs now. It's gonna bring me happiness.
Hey, man,
it does sound cool. I did not know about the V machines though. That's really neat.
Yeah, I grew up playing pinball, so it's not just like a random idea. I'm like, I would love to have one. One of my friends growing up had like kind of a smaller machine in his house, and like we played it all the time.
That's cool.
So yeah, I'm looking at getting one, but I'm very seriously considering V-Pin just because maintenance of a pinball machine is like, I'm not sure I'm ready to get into that. It's like having another hobby, basically. Is
really to maintain it?
Well, because I mean, have you ever seen a pinball machine? They've got like 20 servo, or not even servo, just motors in them. You open it up and it's like 1,000 wires.
Oh, because when you hit something, it bounces off and it like registers. Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, each one has like 100 flashing lights, 20 motors, all these parts. So they have to be cleaned, maintained, waxed, all this stuff pretty regularly. And then if these old machines break down, or if it's a rare part, they've got all these weird, interesting parts, that could cost you $400 or $500 in parts alone just to get the things made from 1993 back in your machine. So I'm like, oh, okay, V-Pin's starting to make a lot more sense in the maintenance department.
If I were you, I would go with the V-Pin, but I also have no idea about pinball, so
yeah, I'm looking at it, man. But pinball's fun. I like pinball.
It'd be a fun hobby. Kids would like it probably too.
Oh yeah, no, my kids would go nuts on it for sure. That's the gaming I'm doing, Matt. I don't know about you, what games you're playing, but I'm playing pinball.
I'm playing pinball. How much do you think go for?
A lot. The V-Pin machines I'm looking at are like around $8,000.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That is a lot of money.
That's around how much like a good classic pinball machine, like a well-maintained classic pinball, will go for. You can get them around $4,000 or $5,000 too. Depends which one you get. But
what is with websites never showing their price of stuff? You have to like order and then it's like click on your credit card. Like, tell me how much it is before I even click on that. What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
There's too many websites nowadays that like break that rule, and it's so annoying. You're like, yeah, just put it in your cart.
I just want to know the price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just put it in your cart. Go to checkout, and then we'll tell you. You're like, screw you. I'm leaving your website, and I'm going to find somebody else who puts the prices up. Like, you shiesty bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the pinball stuff is crazy. There's a lot in the Pacific Northwest, Portland area has tons of pinball stuff. So it's kind of cool, but it's pricey if you want to buy one. It's cheap if you want to go to an arcade now. You just get like a little card. And,
did you have a good time?
Yeah, man. Great time playing classic classic stuff. It's funny because people are like, "Oh, like an old school arcade." And I'm like, I think they're all old school at this point.
Yeah, I think any arcade is going to be pretty old school.
Yeah, it's all like Crazy Taxi era games and earlier,
God,
right?
I loved that game growing up. Oh my God, that was so fun.
Yeah, I think they're making a new Crazy Taxi. I think I saw like a little snippet about that somewhere.
It'd be a good time.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I don't know why I always keep bringing this up. Do you see the Call of Duty actually came out and talked about skill-based matchmaking?
Yeah, I did see that. I didn't read up. I saw the little circle graphic of like showing all the different things they factor into it, but I didn't deep dive into it. I didn't read about it.
Well, the one quote that I want to just read to you because I thought it makes perfect sense, and I think a lot of people just completely just. I mean, in my eyes, it's like obvious, but apparently. So, anyways, this is the quote: "Our data shows that when lower skill players are consistently on the losing end, they're likely to quit matches in progress or stop playing altogether. This has an effect on the player pool. A smaller player pool means that wait times for matches increases, and connections may not be as strong as they should be. This can compound over time to create a spiraling effect. Eventually, only high-skill players remain because low-skill players have quit out of frustration, and the result is an ecosystem that is worse overall for everyone." And I love that I feel slightly vindicated because I'm like, yeah, I've been saying this the entire time. Like, I know there's frustrations around how they've implemented the skill-based matchmaking, but I think at its core, that is what they're going for. Is they're just trying to keep people around and make it a more enjoyable experience for a wider audience.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say that is some corporate bullshit for...
What are they lying about, though?
They're not lying. It's just the phrasing. So this is how you could phrase the exact same thing, which is we're going to sacrifice the quality of the high-end skill players because they make up a small percentage of the player base to increase our overall player pool and cater to the low-skill dum-dums who just want to hop in and not get...
Not low skill, your average player.
Okay, fine. Whatever. Average to low...
Average to below average,
It caters most to the low skill. Like, if you're low skill, skill-based matchmaking benefits you more than any other player category. Average is average. High skill, you get hit the hardest, right? Because
so
you're
the top 5% or whatever. Yeah.
From a purely business standpoint, you want the biggest player base possible. That's the most people buying skins and participating in your microtransaction system. You want as many people playing as possible. So this is just a fancy way to juice up the whole like, oh, we're creating a more healthy environment. For who? You're creating more people at the low to average areas by creating a false sense of competitiveness. And,
false sense?
Well, yeah, because I mean, like...
So when little kids at Little League are playing Little Leaguers, that's a false sense of competitiveness?
Well, I mean, okay, my son was playing soccer this last year, and like, there's always some kid, like coach's kid, that's like crazy good, where they're just tiers above everybody else. And it's fine. The kids see them and they sort of like go, oh, wow, that kid's way good. Some of them will rise to the occasion to try and like step it up. If you're only ever playing against people of your exact same skill level, you don't really see like this incentive or this inspiration to push your skills further beyond. Because if you're doing well within
that's just assuming everyone's on your same skill level and you're never fighting people that are like even slightly higher than you. But I got you. Yeah. I don't think there's a perfect solution. I just think that this makes sense in the long term. So I think the skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty is scuffed. But I think that there's a lot of weird criticisms that I think this is trying to quell a little bit, because they're trying to foster a player base that will enjoy it in the long run. And if you just cater to the high levels who are going to dunk on everybody, then that sucks for everyone else. So I guess, it sucks for,
Well, does it though? So, okay, just do the math equation of say a match.
No. Before we get into that, just because, do you think that they're lying about the lower player base leaving if they don't do what they're doing?
No, I don't think they're lying about that. That absolutely adds up.
Yeah. So even though that might be just for business purposes, what's wrong? So what's bad about that?
Well, if you segregate the player bases to a certain degree where...
Oh, what were you going to say? What were you going to say about the high school players?
Okay. So say there's one high skill player in every 10 players, and that guy gets mixed into a match. Okay, yeah, he's going to dunk on some low skill players here and there, but you're not going to... Every death and every engagement in a match of 10 players is not going to be that high skill player. It's going to be probably 1 out of 10, maybe a little higher than that if he's living longer and killing more people. But the point is like you get a mixture of different skill levels. You dunked on that guy, then you had a stand-up firefight with another guy, and then you got dunked on by another guy. Like, what they're doing is they're saying, hey, low skill players don't even like to get dunked on at all. Like, they're trying to like almost create a safe, padded, cozy environment for them to be like, I'm good at this game and nobody's that much better than me.
So you mean they have fun?
I mean, if that's what that's not my idea of fun, is to think that to be matched up with a bunch of other players who like if I hear you. If I go
I'm
to
playing
play,
I'm also playing devil's advocate at the same time, just so we're clear.
Matt, if we both go and play golf and we both suck at golf, part of me thinks like it would be more fun if somebody of a higher skill was there and you could almost watch them play and be like, oh, this is what I need to do to get a little bit better, right? Like, I mean, I'm just saying, having a good mixtures of skills together.
Going back to your point with like soccer or recreational sports is that you will have players that are better and you can aspire to them. That gives you that little bit of oomph. But they're still a fourth grader, right? They're not a high schooler. You're not going against a high schooler, right? So there are still brackets within the skill bracket, right? Of that. It's not, yes, they are better. They could even be significantly better. They could be a savant or whatever.
I don't know if I totally agree with all of that, because I think some of the best gaming ages are like, when you're 16, right? That's like, you could be at your prime in terms of reaction time and skill. So I don't know.
I was more within the realm of sports. So a little leaguer is not going to be going against someone who's in high school. That was the point I was trying to make
the same analogy in video gaming, which is like, okay, if you're playing COD, then you're probably capable of aspiring to whatever skill level you need to, right? Like within your teen years and your young adult years, you can probably hit a fairly high skill level. The problem I have with all of this is that usually when I come into an FPS, I fall into the higher skill category of players. And when I want to play COD, like I hate playing COD because it's just a sweat fest. Everybody's using meta guns and I can't just like pick up.
Which is why I think the Call of Duty, and I want to make this crystal clear, I don't think Call of Duty does their matchmaking very well.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you. I just think that the idea that there's like no skill-based matchmaking, like a lot of people claim, like at all, I think is a mistake because of the reasons they just said. That's really mainly the thing that I harp on is literally no skill-based matchmaking whatsoever.
I will concede and say that I think there's some things you can do with it to foster an overall better community, but I don't believe for a second that Activision is trying to. They're just looking at the numbers purely.
Oh, absolutely. They're doing it because they want to make money.
This will give us the most people, and we don't actually care equally about the different skill brackets. And it's why you see so many players like Shroud openly harping on the shittiness of COD and how crappy it is for high skill players and stuff, because they're so obviously not interested in that player-based demographic anymore. At one point they were, but they just want the money now. So I think that's what people are upset about, is like, if you are a good gamer and you want to take COD more seriously, it's not a fun experience for you. It's just got to be approached as this sort of casual toss away experience, almost to a degree.
Yeah. And that's a good criticism. Absolutely. I will agree with you.
Yeah. Well,
I do agree.
Jason says Matt's right. Okay. What the hell?
Well, I think because Jason's in the category where he he doesn't like, and I don't blame him because he's admitted to me many times that he's older, his reaction time is slower, and trying to play games like Rainbow Six Siege and stuff like that, where there's this competitive nature to it. If he was just thrown to the wolves and had to go against Macy J every single game, it would be a miserable experience.
Yeah. Yeah, Rainbow Six is a different beast entirely because it's such a high knowledge curve in that game.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, yeah, I could come in and maybe beat some of these guys in a stand-up firefight if we were in a parking lot on the map. Right, but when they've got 5 walls between us and they know the map like the back of their hand, I don't stand a chance.
And maybe that's because I do come from like 6 years of playing Rainbow Six Siege every single day, where matchmaking is a core integral part of it, and not having MMR at all would just be nonsense. Maybe that's why I have this stance, like no skill-based matchmaking whatsoever just seems so foreign to me because like it's so integral to like what I was doing for so long. So
that does bring up a very good point about the game mode being a very important component because Call of Duty is mostly TDM essentially, right? You just throw yourself into a map and you can engage any player on that map, and sometimes they'll flank you, sometimes you flank them. It's all just kind of up in the air, very nebulous experience, where Rainbow Six is like, yeah, it's 5v5, tight knit, very, very strategic. If one player on your team isn't pulling their weight, that could throw the whole game, you know? So in that environment, I get it's a better experience if the teams are more even.
Right.
But even within that environment, I would prefer something where you can have a higher skill difference, but the teams try and match up the skill difference, if that makes sense. So like if you have a Matimi0 on each team and then a LevelCap on each team, that feels more equal, even though we're different skills in that game, if that makes sense.
I guess, but okay, I see what you're saying. I just feel like the person who is not as knowledgeable will just get wrecked and they'll just not have a good time.
Yeah.
I know when I get to higher ranks in Rainbow Six, like it just becomes headshot frag fest, and it's not like the game just completely devolves into just headshots and aim, and I don't like it anymore. And I get just dunked on. So I don't know. It's a hard question. Good debate though. That was fun. I like that.
Yeah. It comes up fairly regularly, but it's one of those. We're not going to be talking about it in the next year because everybody's going to be using those AI monitor cheats, and
of course, yeah.
It'll be skill-based cheap matchmaking or something. But yeah, it's one of those endless debates, and coming primarily from the Battlefield perspective, I think Battlefield greatly benefits from having a diverse set of
a lot of mixed, diverse
skills in one match.
It's more of a sandbox too, which allows people to get kills in different ways, and it's not as competitive. And I agree.
Yeah. It's definitely not one of these open and shut cases where it's like, this is the situation for all games. It's like, there's a lot of factors that play into.
Because I actually agree with you on Battlefield, 100%. I think that a skill-based matchmaking isn't required for Battlefield because I don't even know how you would. I don't even know how you would do that. Like vehicles, like if you're really good in a vehicle and your skill is higher in the vehicle, but then you want to play as infantry, do you just get wrecked as an infantry until it's like lower? Like no, that would be miserable. So
also you don't have the player base to skill-based matchmake 100 player servers, you know, because it's just like you can do it at 5v5, right? But once you get into 64, you're like, okay, let's just try and fill a game, guys. Forget about their skill.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just thought it was fascinating that they came out with this discussing why they're doing it, because I can understand where they're coming from. I don't think it closes the debate or anything, but it's nice to kind of see from their perspective of why they've done it the way that they have. And while it might just be completely driven by money because they're a business and they want to make money, it's good information to have.
Yeah, it's not going to change whether or not I play COD, though.
yeah, I hear you.
I'm like, that ship has sailed, guys. I mean,
it's like cool. I'm glad to hear it. I won't still be playing. Thank you very much.
Yeah. But that's for 50 other reasons in addition to SBMM, right?
Right.
It's mostly the auto aim controller crap that drives me crazy.
It is nuts how they just never miss.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're like, oh, okay. When I join a server and I see it's like all PlayStation controllers, because it tells you what platform they're on, I'm like,
Yep.
Like my reaction shouldn't be, oh God, but that is what it is.
It is.
It's like,
it literally is that.
Yeah. So switching subjects a bit, I see that you've been watching Masters of the Air.
I have.
I
It's
have
pretty
been
good.
watching it as well.
I watched the first 2 episodes. I think that's the only ones that are out right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
very
fantastic.
Good.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. Yeah.
I'm so excited by that series. I grew up watching, there's a movie called Memphis Belle that's essentially about this exact thing, and it's a B7 team named Memphis Belle after, I guess, the city.
I'm assuming this is all based off of a true story, and they're not just making this all up.
Yeah. No, all of this stuff is, I believe Masters of the Air is taking the same approach as the Band of Brothers stuff, which is these are real people that fought, and they're sort of telling their stories within it. So
it might be romanticized a little bit in some respects, but
it's possible, but I don't think the other shows really changed much. I think a lot of this stuff is pretty spot on.
Okay.
And a huge amount of,
maybe not romanticized, but dramatized would be a better word to use.
Yeah. I mean, sure. I think they add a little bit more charm in there, maybe, for certain elements of it. But
life usually isn't a cinematic, so.
Yeah, although I don't know, man. World War II was a crazy time, so you don't know. Actually, some of that stuff might be pretty spot on. But this is a period of time for anyone just who's like, "What the heck are you guys talking about?" This is a show about B-17 pilots in World War II, and this is a period of time. Not only is World War II one of the most covered historical events ever, but
for good reason.
The B-17 air campaign is especially covered. The book Catch-22 is based off of these guys. Like the whole book is about these guys running bombing runs, and the insanity of it, because their survival rate was so crazy low, and their tours of duty, like completing one without dying, was like not good odds.
Horrible.
And the ability to make it through it all while maintaining your sanity too was really nuts, because these guys were doing daytime aerial bombing campaigns over parts of Europe that
high priority targets that are defended.
Well defended with radar assisted and flak cannons, and these planes would go down like crazy, and they just got to fly in a straight line till you get to the bombing target.
And just hope.
Yeah. Just like, hopefully we don't all get blown up by a flak cannon. You're in these giant squadrons of planes, and you're just seeing like, the plane on the left get blown up and go down on fire. And you're like, well, could have been us. Wasn't, but hopefully it's not. And then plane on the right gets blown up, goes down.
And then 2 seconds later, it's them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And and then you parachute out in enemy territory, and you're like, oh,
well, GG.
Yeah. I knew, growing up, we knew a B-25 pilot, and he had been shot down 3 times during the war.
Wow.
And, he said,
survived.
Yeah, he survived, and he said that like everything I'm seeing in the show sounds spot on with his stories, because he'd say like, you go into a big cloud bank, and you can't see any. They don't have the high end equipment back then, so they can't detect other plane proximity and stuff on their HUDs.
They just basically could run into each other.
Yeah, so they go into a big cloud bank, and they come out, and there'd be 2-3 less planes. They wouldn't even see them having crashed, but they would crash into each other in the clouds. And then that would be, they'd just come out the other side and be like, oh, where'd the other planes go? Oh, terrifying. He said one of the bombing missions he talked about was, I think they were doing a campaign in Africa, and they're trying to hit like a German airfield or something. And they would put up these balloons, these big kind of like weather balloons on steel cables, and that would keep the planes from flying in, because it would cut off their wings.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they get in too close. And he said like, one of their campaigns, like one of the squadrons took off early, and it was supposed to be a sneak attack, and the squadron alerted the whole base, and all the other squadrons there then got to the base later while everybody was ready to go on the defensive, and they just got like massacred.
Yikes.
You're just like hearing these stories and you're like, this is the worst sounding thing of all time.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it was literally, I mean, they say
25,000 feet sometimes. And like the show portrays it pretty well, but like it is free. They're negative 50 degrees up there.
That's what I liked, is that they showed off parts of war that are horrifying, but aren't really, you would never think about as being horrifying. And the cold being one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So you all have to have your oxygen mask on. Those airplanes are not sealed
At all.
They have cut out windows on them for the machine gunners to shoot out of.
Yep.
So
they had to do that.
Yeah, so the whole plane is negative 50. The guys are wearing like these crazy things, but one of the episodes, the dude in the ball turret, like, he gets chewed up a bit by shrapnel, and the thing that hurts him the most is that his actual clothing gets torn, and he gets frostbite through the torn clothing because he's just not being and you're just the guy that burns his hands on the gun because it's frozen. I thought he burned his hand on the gun because it was hot.
It was hot.
Yeah, he's trying to change the ammo.
Because it's a weapon that it was like, because when you fire a weapon for a long time, it can heat up because just the metal friction and everything.
Yeah.
But no, it was because it was so cold, it stuck to the,
it pulled his skin off his hands.
Oh, it was horrible. It was
trying
horrible.
to fix a gun jam.
It's not, so for those viewers, don't watch this with your children. It is not a child show. I mean, it's World War, so it should be already obvious, but like they show some pretty gruesome.
This is Hitler.
They show off some pretty gruesome scenes.
Yeah, and we're just 2 episodes in, and I think it's a fairly long series. I mean, I
hope it is, because it's very good.
It's super good, and they're just, at this point in the series, they're just bombing kind of sub pens and outside targets and stuff like that.
They're not really going deep in.
They haven't gone into Germany yet, and hit the big targets. Which, those campaigns were crazy, where like, I think sometimes like 50% of the planes would come back. And you're just like,
what's mind blowing is, how did we fund that? How did we have the resources to fund that?
Yeah. The American campaign during the war is the craziest thing ever, because we were able to the Germans had the Tiger tank and we had the Sherman, and they were not an equal match for a huge portion of the war, but we could make tanks faster than they could blow them up. And that was like the American strategy for a lot of it, was just like,
good Lord,
we've got this production. We turned all the Ford Motors plants into tank plants during the war.
Yep.
We just turned the entire economy into
the entire economy
machine.
was a war machine. Yep.
And it was just something that the Germans were like, well, we can't compete with this. Yeah, they're shooting down B-17s like crazy. We're building them like crazy,
Isn't that wild, to get your entire country basically geared towards one thing?
Yeah,
that's totally insane. It's insane to me. Can you imagine that today?
Not really. I can't. No, I can't, because there's no situation that in my head makes sense in this way. It'd be too disastrous, and it's like the
only thing I can see is aliens. Aliens show up. We have to defend ourselves.
Oh, like the Independence Day?
Independence Day, yeah. The entire world has to band together.
If aliens show up, we're so effed. If
we're so screwed.
If they have the tech for interstellar travel, they're gonna the one button push away from us all being dead. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, we're not gonna be like, come on, guys. Like, it's the last battle.
Yeah, get out your your AKs, baby. Come on, get out your bunker.
I do love Independence Day, though. That movie is one of my, like...
It is fantastic.
It's possibly one of the all-time great summer blockbusters, back when they used to have summer blockbusters.
Yeah. It was a good time.
Yeah. Did you ever see the sequel to Independence Day?
Nope. Woof. I heard it was great.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't even remember most of it. It was so good. Yeah. It's a shame that they can't do the sequels.
It is a shame.
Roland Emmerich, I think he does all the big disaster films. Like like 2012 and stuff.
Oh
believe.
yeah, did he do that too?
I think so. Yeah, he just does all the ones where like the world explodes for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a giant asteroid, aliens, 2012.
Though I don't know if did he make the day, whatever that. Oh,
yeah, I think so.
Day before, day after, or whatever.
Oh, I can't stand that naming convention anymore.
Yeah,
it's
me either. So there was some truth behind it, where we are moving in the direction where there's so much fresh water going into the ocean that it might stop some of those currents, especially by.
Are you talking about the day after 2012 or something? What?
Yeah. So the one that starred Jake Gyllenhaal like 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, that had the superstorm in it, right? And that was due to the water temperature of the ocean.
So yeah, it basically we could be heading that direction where those currents like shut off and it doesn't bring heat to those areas, and then all of a sudden London and England is now going to be a lot colder. So there is some truth to it. It's just not to the extreme that he was portraying in the movie.
Yeah. Did you ever see Geostorm?
No.
Oof. I recommend that movie. It is hilariously bad. So if you got like
Geostorm,
if you got a beer or something, sit down, have a good laugh.
Oh my gosh.
It's Gerard Butler, and they're trying to I guess they're like trying to fix the environment, or the government's trying to
17% Rotten Tomato. It actually has some like reasonly big actors too. Ed Harris is in it.
Yeah. No, big actors, dumbest movie I've ever seen, but so funny because it's like the environment is screwed up or whatever, and they're trying to fix it with weather satellites. But then some hacker or something hacks the weather satellites.
And then causes it to causes tsunamis and stuff.
Well, what the funniest thing about it is like, it doesn't make any sense where like they create mega thunderstorms and like, you're like, okay, like, yeah, that would be scary, but it wouldn't, they have lightning strike a stadium and the whole stadium explodes in a giant fireball. And you're like, I don't think that's how lightning works. The stadium's built of concrete. Like, you can throw as much electricity into that as you want. It's not going anywhere, guys.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny though. Yeah. You're just watching it. You're like, I don't think like the lightning's like decimating freeways and stuff, and like these big concrete overpasses, and you're like, that's not like
that's not how it works.
It would be terrifying, but it wouldn't explode a city, guys. Come on.
Right.
Yeah, Geostorm they have a giant space station in it that like has artificial. It's so weird. They have the rotating rings on it, but the whole thing also has artificial gravity. So it's just like they designed a space station. Some poor graphic designer was like, I don't know, just
make it look cool.
Put rings on it and do all this stuff, and it's just like nobody understands like why any of this stuff is designed the way it is. It's just really funny. So like it's artificial gravity, but then there's also rings and all this other stuff. It was just
we don't know how to make artificial gravity. All we can do like right now is the rings for centrifugal force, and that's it.
It's one of the biggest hand-wavium things in all sci-fi shows, where they're just like, don't worry about it. It's artificial gravity. And you're like, being able to invent the ability to manipulate gravitational force would change literally everything about life.
It would change the world.
Everything, right?
Everything, yeah.
But it's just sort of this hand-wavy technology that we're like, we have it. Don't worry about.
Just makes it a lot easier. That's why I really like The Expanse, is that they all have shoes, like magnetized shoes.
Yeah, well, all the ships are built vertically, right? Mm-hmm. So they accelerate at 1g, 1 Earth's gravity. And so it creates the gravitational force downward. So they all walk upstairs in the ship because it's like a giant building. It's like a skyscraper. Yeah. It's brilliant. And then like they handle it perfectly where you accelerate at 1g toward, say, the planet you're trying to get to. And then halfway there, you turn around and decelerate at 1g to get there. So like halfway through, they do the turn and burn, right? The flip maneuver. Everybody has to strap in so you don't fly around and hit the walls. And then
I love that show so much.
It's just so well thought out, man.
Yeah, it is.
As a space nerd, though, you start poking holes in the stuff where like they have the pilot seat for the Rocinante is like at the very end of the ship. which is not where you would want it if you're doing high G maneuvers. Because there's like a scene where they have to flip the ship around and shoot a railgun and then flip it back around to continue retreating.
Which would have even more G's if you're
Yeah, you're basically at the end of the centrifuge, right? Right. So you get turned into like a pancake. So you would want the cockpit and all the crew maneuvering areas in the center of the ship. So you're experiencing the least amount of G forces in high G maneuvers.
But you got to be able to see your target.
Well, no, they don't have any windows in the ship, so it doesn't matter.
That's the whole point. Exactly, it doesn't, because you'd have to rely on just your machines and your computers and systems. Yeah.
So you can easily poke little holes in it, right? But it's probably the most well done space show in terms of
it's super true to form and real closest to real life as we're probably going to get for a show. Yeah, sci-fi.
And even they have to invent technology, like their forgot what their drive is called, but they have a special. Their engines, right, are more powerful than the engines that we can make because they need to be.
Some guy just kind of stumbled upon it, and then that was a pretty rough episode. The way that they did that. It was really good though.
The inventor of the something drive, I forgot what it's called, but
changes the entire galaxy. But
yeah.
Without spoiling anything.
Yeah. Go watch The Expanse. It's one of the best shows. I think it's on the Amazon Prime now. I think you can just watch it. It's fantastic.
Little slow to start, but if you can just push through, you're in for an incredible ride.
I personally didn't find it that way because they get off pretty quickly with the Canterbury and all that stuff at the beginning. So stuff hits the fan within the first couple of episodes, I think. But I've been actually rewatching episodes of it while I make my space game because it's great inspiration. I'll have it on the side, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I love how they did that. That's so cool." They just did such a good job with the show. And sound nerds are obsessed with The Expanse because they say that the audio effects in The Expanse are designed to replicate the reverberation of the weaponry in space accurately and stuff. So
it's cool.
Yeah, they take some liberties with it, but I don't know. I can't comment on how accurate the sound
anything that involves like the space scenes it's so hype in the way that they shoot it too. I always just like, yes.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Well, so I think I've read 4 of the books. I stopped reading them because the actual show does the books such good justice that I'm just like, I'm not really getting much more information from the books than the show provided. So I read them. I did it in reverse where I watched the show and then started reading the books and then realized I wasn't going to get much more out of them. But the show gets all the combat nuance in there where if you know what to look for, it's there. There's like these amazing battles between these ships at like hundreds of kilometers away, right? Shooting at each other, and they're outsmarting each other in these like very cool nuanced ways, where that scene where the Rocinante takes out the I forgot what the other, is it the Pella or something?
I can't remember.
The Marco guy has. There's that cool battle scene where Marco's chasing down the Rocinante, and they keep dodging in the same direction because they have kind of a newbie pilot in the Pella. I mean, they should never have this situation, but they're pirates, they don't have the best crew ever. Somebody's a little green or something. So they notice that they keep dodging their railgun shots in the same direction every time. So they anticipate it, and they fire their PDCs where they're going to dodge, and then they fire their railgun. And in the book, they explain how the targeting computer will disregard PDCs that are not on a trajectory course for them
to hit them.
Yeah, so it disregards that, and so it allows the pilot to dodge in the same direction, and then he dodges the railgun shot, and all the PDCs lay into the Pella and disable it. And you're like, it's just so well written, and the idea behind all the combat is so well conceived. I'm just like, I love it, man. It's
apparently those authors are making another series now too.
Oh, in the same universe?
I think it's in a different universe, but I could be wrong.
Interesting. I hope they.
It's more sci-fi.
I hope they continue with. I think they call it hard sci-fi, which is we're not gonna just be like, and then they had teleporters, and don't worry about how it works.
Whoa, and then they had. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
can hear you. Yeah. Did my internet go down or was that you?
I think it's.
Or was it just Discord?
I know we got a little hiccup there. We're up and running, people. We're fine. Matt had a power flake. There was a geostorm in Matt's area, and the lightning.
I hope not.
Lightning struck something. Yeah. No, I think we're good. I think we're good, man. I finished my. Yeah. What?
Story short, Expanse is incredible.
It is.
Watch it.
It is. I finished Boy Consumes Universe, which I think I was telling you last episode that it's really good. I found out that it's based on a book, but the book is based on this guy's real life, which is insane. Okay. It's a good show. I recommend it. It's on Netflix. If you're running out of shows to watch on Netflix, check out Boy Consumes Universe. 1 season, one and done. True story-ish. I think some details towards the end are a bit made up, but pretty wild story about kids growing up in Australia, sort of involved in journalism and gang warfare and stuff like that. It's pretty good.
Jeez.
Yeah, I can't really say much about it without giving it away plot points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Boy Swallows universe?
That's it. Dang it.
No. Because I was looking at this and I was like, wait, I see Swallow.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting that. Boy Swallows universe.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, that one's good. And I got my Apple subscription.
Really good reviews too.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, you want to wrap the pod up there?
Yeah, good? We can. Yeah.
We can. It's 6 a.m. my time now, so I'm just starting to wake up. Get the gay going, and you're gonna pull up your covers, take a snooze, put on your little nightcap.
Yep.
Your sleeping cap. That's how I imagine you go to bed, Matt, is you have your little sleeping cap.
I've got these the face mask, right? I've got my my CPAP machine. I've got a nightcap. I got my retainer. I've also got these wrist guards because I
was sleeping with a wrist guard the other night.
The only thing I do use right now is nasal strips on the top so I can breathe.
Do you not use mouth tape? You get the mouth tape?
No, I've heard that is helpful too, though.
I tried it a little bit. I think it actually does work. I just kind of got out of the habit. I need to get back into the habit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you, this is for the youngins listening. This is what you get into when you get older is sleep aids. How can you sleep better?
It's not very attractive. So if you're with a significant other and you've got all this tape, nose guard, mouth guard, all this stuff on, you're like, hey babe.
Yeah, you're like, you wanna get freaky?
You wanna get frisky?
Yeah. And then they're like, hang on, let me just take off my let me take this tube off of my face. And no, there is a window of opportunity, shall I say, before all the stuff goes on. Jason's saying, how would Matt know? It's very nice of you, Jason.
How would I know? Well, he's right. I don't really have a significant other, but thank you, Jason, for reminding me once again that I live a lonely existence.
I'll get you some more body pillows, Matt.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Appreciate it.
All right. What words of wisdom do you have for our audience today?
My words of wisdom is that if you have a health concern, even be small, a little small thing here and there, get it checked out. Because if it becomes a bigger problem, not only will it deteriorate your health, but also will cost more. So nip those problems in the bud, as they say.
Yep. Horticulture, baby.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for dropping by. If you want to support the podcast on Patreon and come watch us live, like Jason is doing right now, then you can do that by supporting us on Patreon. And all that money goes towards buying Matimi0 a mail order bride one day.
It's not true. Stop. It's not true.
As soon as it becomes we don't know what the legality of the situation is.
It will never become legal. And even if it does, it's not happening.
I know, Matt, we're famous YouTubers. We know people. We can get a mail order bride. Okay. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, guys. So the more you guys subscribe on Patreon, the hotter she gets. And that's how it works.
Terrible.
It's terrible and true. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next week on Wednesday. And peace out. Bye-bye.
Bye.